The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Café. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Friends in Recovery podcast, the podcast that is here to help you, a loved one, or a friend get started down the road to recovery. This is the Friends in Recovery podcast, brought to you by the Genesis House. Genesis House, providing a safe, nurturing environment to heal from addiction since 1992. Please be a friend and share our message with a friend on Podbean, iTunes, iHeartRadio, or YouTube. And now, here are your Friends in Recovery.
Hey, welcome everybody to Friends in Recovery Podcast.com, podcasting live from Studio 21 Podcast Café in the lovely town of Salem, New Hampshire, with our good friend over there, Ed Sullivan.
What's up, Ed?
Producer extraordinaire.
I am happy to be here.
We're happy to have you.
We are. Always happy to have you.
I am Mike Miles, the pod father, and sitting next to my good friend, Jersey Ed.
Hi, everybody.
Ed, you got some business to take care of?
Yeah, let's take care of the housekeeping stuff first and business stuff. Of course, we always want to thank Genesis House.
Absolutely.
And I also want to thank Ed for that lovely music that he plays us in on. I'm like kind of want to go to sleep when I hear all that.
I think the music predates me.
It does. It absolutely does. We want to thank Genesis House for making all this possible.
Absolutely.
Couple things. Friends in Recovery alumni meetings are now in New Jersey and Florida. You can email Skylar n@genesishouse.net to get those times and dates. And also, I believe it's on our, I think it's on our website or Facebook page. They post them too. Also, like us on Facebook. We are on Facebook. We're also Facebook Live now. Via satellite, right, Ed?
Whatever you say.
You know I have to say that every show.
You're the tech guy.
I am the tech guy. That's right. Ed had a couple questions before the show that I had to show him how to work the board. So, and then also please subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. It's really important that you subscribe to the show because it kind of gives you an alert that we're on. When we're always on at live on Tuesday at 4 o'clock, just like we are today. So absolutely. YouTube and all your other podcast catchers. One other thing, as I mentioned last week, Mike, is that Atlantic City Marathon, Friends in Recovery are sponsoring. Yes. We're not sponsoring the marathon, but we're sponsoring our own little kind of marathon, October 19th and 20th. It's a marathon, half marathon, 10K and 5K. I'm going to be running as I said last week, I'm going to be running the half marathon, and we're going to have a bunch of employees coming out. I think we're going to have a couple people running the 5K, and we need support if you guys want to come out.
Come down and watch.
Yeah, come down and watch. We'd love to have you. So, and that's all about all we have as far as housekeeping and business goes.
Super. We have a special guest today. We have Corey Clarke from Richmond, Virginia. Yep. And Corey's waiting patiently, and I just want to read a little bit of his bio here, which I found very, very hot, warm, and it touched me. Corey first started using drugs at the age of 14. His drug of choice at the time was heroin. And just imagine a 14-year-old doing heroin. I mean, tough stuff, man.
God.
Among every other drug or any other drug he get his hands on, and I can relate to that. Corey spent 28 years in active addiction before realizing it was time for a change. One day he was sitting in his car out in the yard, watching his wife and his kids play. He knew he didn't want to use, but he also knew that physically he couldn't stop. And that's when I guess we call hitting our bottom.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And he realized he was completely powerless and at the mercy of the drug. And boy, I'll tell you, when that realization comes in, that's a lonely place to be.
It is. And you don't think there's any help at all.
No.
And Corey was here to tell us there
Corey,
is.
Take it from there.
What's up, Corey?
So you were powerless and at the mercy of drugs, and you knew that you just couldn't do this on your own. And take it from there and introduce yourself. Nice to see you.
Hey, Corey.
Richmond, Virginia, person in long-term recovery, recovering addict, however you want to put it. But that day, it still sticks out in my mind because it's a little bit of backstory to that day. I was stuck in the house watching my kids all day, and I was going through withdrawals. I was sick, and I couldn't get anybody to bring anything to me because I live way out in the country. I'm from a small town called Montpelier, Virginia, and I couldn't get anybody to bring anything to me. So my wife had took the car and was going to work, and I was on the phone all day trying to get something, and I couldn't. So when she got there, someone actually finally said that they would meet me. So when she got there, I made up an excuse to go to the store that's 5 minutes away, but really it took me like an hour to go and do what I needed to do. And I came back and I was sitting in my driveway, and it was like an image out of a book, man, out of a movie. And the grass was cut, the house was clean, the kids were playing with the dogs, wife sitting on the porch, and I'm sitting in the car with $1 bill and a straw in my hand, trying not to sniff the dope that I had just bought. I didn't want to sniff it, but I couldn't not do it, you know. So I'm sitting there with tears running down my eyes, and I'm holding it out in front of me so the tears wouldn't drop in it, you know.
Yeah.
And I ended up doing it, and that day was the start that let me know I had to do something different.
Well, that's a lonely. You think it's a lonely day, you know. We think that we're all alone, and we think that it's the end of everything, you know, and we don't know how to get out of it. Is that how you felt? You kind of didn't know how to get out of it, just sitting there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I felt like I was in a hole by myself.
Yep.
You know, nobody understood that this was unique to me. You know, I didn't know about. I'd never really been in the need. I didn't want to stop until that point.
Right.
But once I got to the point where I wanted to stop, I didn't know how.
Right.
So I didn't know about the tools and the recovery and the different programs that are available now that were available then. I didn't know.
Yep.
And once I finally started reaching out, I was faced with all kinds of obstacles, and I just felt by myself. I was.
Yeah. Corey, I want to go back a little bit. It says that you tried to control it, cutting back only on weekends and tapering off. How did that work out?
Oh, it worked. It failed horribly.
It did, right? I'm just checking. I want to make sure. But
I did the whole, I'm just going to get high on the weekends, or I'm just going to get high Monday, or, I'm just going to have a special occasion and drink. I tried all that, and the weekends became every day. The special occasions became every day. It didn't matter if it was happy or sad. It didn't matter. It was all internal. It was me. I couldn't control me.
It owned you. It takes over.
It's you're powerless over it. It just like it says in the big book, we're powerless over whatever it is, and at the time we're powerless of the alcohol and drugs, unfortunately, and I remember that sad spot too. Not knowing what to do. I thought I was the only person out there. Now, Corey, we have a lot of people listening and watching and everything, but I'm sure there's some people out there now kind of saying, yeah, I'm right where Corey was. I understand it. But they're not alone. There's millions of people out there feeling the same way right now as we did all those years ago.
I am very adamant when I talk to people about that, to let them know that we are never alone.
Right.
I remember that feeling of just isolation and loneliness. Like I remember that feeling, and today I have so many people that are in my corner. And it's the majority of the people that I was afraid to even let know that I had a problem are now some of my biggest supporters. That was the disease telling me that I was worthless and nobody was going to love me or care about me once they found out that I had a problem. And the same people that I was afraid to talk to now actually come and talk to me about things that they deal with.
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
It's beautiful. I hate to see people so broken and hurting. It breaks my heart.
Yeah, absolutely. And Corey, your hat says it all. Tell us about that hat you have on there. For the folks that can't see, it says Hope on his hat. If you're watching on
plate
YouTube.
from Virginia, it says Hope. Hope for me stands for Hold On, Pain Ends.
Hold on, pain ends. That is so true. Me and Mike were looking at that before, and it does. If you do, it's amazing. The blessings that we get all these years later, even when you put it down and you ask for help. The minute you ask for help, and I know for me, and I know Mike, we shared this plenty of times. The second I asked for help, the second I knew I had to surrender and stop, I knew that was it. The biggest burden just was lifted off of me, and it felt like I lost 1,000,000 pounds, and I was like this. this super kind of hero, but I didn't know where to go with it. I didn't know what to do with it, and it's guys like you and Mike and everybody that can direct us to meetings and treatment and all that stuff, and I'm sure that's kind of the direction you went after you kind of surrendered that day in your car.
Absolutely. Where I came from, where I grew up, I grew up around a lot of street guys, and I was raised and taught that, we don't have pain. We don't show pain. We carry our own burdens. You figure it out. It's you just do what you need to do to figure it out. And in recovery, I've learned that I've been carrying pain that wasn't meant for me to carry.
Yeah,
like all the things that I had learned in the streets, some of the biggest lies that I was told I learned from the streets. And we don't have to live that way. We carry pain and burdens that are not meant for us to carry. It's so much easier just to settle down.
In early recovery, I heard a guy say one night, he said, booze and drugs will take you to places you don't want to be, doing things you don't want to do, with people you don't want to be with. And man, I can tell you, I related to that so quickly. So true.
Yep.
And because I knew I wasn't meant to be a drug addict. I knew that I didn't grow up to be a drug addict. I never thought when I was a kid, geez, someday I'm gonna be a cocaine addict, and I'm gonna spend every nickel I have, and I'm just gonna lie to people, and I'm gonna
fuck up your
steal,
job,
and I'm gonna
right.
And all of a sudden you're there, and there's still a part, like there's this little part that's just pushed way down that wants to get out. Doesn't know how to get out. So what do? You just go along. You got to survive every day. I love the part where you said you were in your car. You couldn't get anyone to bring you anything, and that pain, that emotional, physical, psychological pain is more. I'd rather have someone chop off a limb.
Yeah.
I could deal with that pain than the pain of waiting for something. To get high, just to get that monkey off my back, just to get right, not even to feel good, because I wasn't getting high anymore at the end. I was just trying to feel right.
Yeah. Well, now your story goes on. You went into treatment, and people are maybe at that point, and it doesn't look like you were a first-time winner. Neither was I. Tell us a little bit about what happened with all that. How treatment went. Everybody's looking for treatment, and nowadays treatment's insanely crazy out there. And what happened as far as did you? I mean, you got it in the car, but then where'd you go after that? What was your route after that?
After that, it took about 2 years for me actually after that, because when I came to that realization in the car, I got on the phone and I tried to call my local area mental health facility. I was new to even trying to find help. So, us active addicts know everything. So everybody gave me an idea.
We do.
You need to do this and you need to do that, and this will work. You need to call this number. And it was a bunch of bullshit. But when I finally got to a point and I called my insurance company, they gave me the numbers to all of these local facilities. And I was put on a waiting list.
Ugh.
What does an addict do when you get put on a waiting list?
Get high.
I kept getting high.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to stop, but I continued to, even in that pain process, I still continued to try to reach out. Right. So I ended up in an inpatient facility called Life Center of Galax. And it was a good program. My insurance said I could stay there for 30 days. It cut me at 14, and I was sent home with 14 days clean, and really nothing else. Like I went to H.O.P.E. It helped for a while, but I didn't know. I didn't understand that I didn't just use drugs because I liked using drugs.
There was something behind it, right?
I was always under the impression if anybody would ask me, why you get high? I get high because I like to.
Yeah.
I didn't learn then that I get high because I suffer from a fear of abandonment. I have low self-esteem.
Yeah.
I'm a people pleaser. You know, the character. I didn't know all of these things.
And that's real tough to understand. 14 days in treatment, and you know us at real quick to give Genesis House a plug here. If somebody comes down to Genesis House, we're a 30 to 90 day program, and we feel that the 30 days is just the beginning. We would never leave nothing against the center you went to. I know them; they're a good center, but you know, we always plug that 30 days in, and you know, 30 days, 90 days, even you know, half a year isn't enough. You know, I remember 5 years into it, I was still scratching my head like, what the hell do I do? How do I do this? You know, there's no book. I mean, or there is a book, there's the big book, but you know, but it's crazy. So the longer that you can get in somewhere and stay, you know, it's just amazing that the information you learn about yourself and why you're using. So
we'll be right back.
Yeah.
FriendsInRecoveryPodcast.com and talking with, Corey Clarke.
Thanks, Corey. We'll talk to you in a minute.
Genesis House is a premier substance abuse and rehabilitation facility located in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. We have been providing the highest quality of addiction treatment since 1992 and are accredited by the Joint Commission. We offer a range of programs that include detox, residential treatment, dual diagnosis, a Christian track for people who want to incorporate their faith into treatment, a uniform services track, and we work with most major insurance carriers. Genesis House is led by a dedicated team of administrative and clinical professionals, and we stand on our commitment to excellence in recovery services. Contact us today to find out more about our program. Take the first step and call Genesis House at 800-737-0933 or visit us on the web at www.genesishouse.net. That's 800-737-0933 or www.genesishouse.net. Begin your journey to a long and successful recovery with Genesis House.
Hey, FriendsInRecoveryPodcast.com. Back here live with Jersey Ed and the Podfather. And our good friend, new friend. I
like
him. Corey Clarke.
He could take the show over with that great voice he has.
That's right.
I'm just going to walk off the show and you can take over, Corey.
There's going to be a lot of women in men calling later.
I know.
Corey.
I know. Who's that guy, Corey?
As an impartial observer, he's doing all the work.
He is. Corey, we're just going to sit over there and have a soda and you just keep going.
Corey, I'm going to bring you back to the attempting to stop. It says you tried controlling it, cutting back, just on weekends, tapering off. Then you tried methadone, Suboxone, clinic, Richmond area. Let's go from there.
That was actually before I went to inpatient. When I got out of college, I knew I had a problem then, and I was trying to fix it. I was trying to address it just because my life was so out of order. I dropped out of college senior year, you know, at a dope habit longer than 95, wow, and just running crazy. And but I didn't really know about recovery. You know, I thought just because I could abstain, and there's nothing against any other treatment, any other pathway of recovery, but it didn't work for me.
Right.
But when I got out of my first inpatient, I had taken, my job had given me 30 days off. So I came home with 15 days before I had to go back to work. And I was sitting in my house.
That could be dangerous.
I had learned nothing about me. So I started reaching out to the same people that I got high with. They were my friends. Like we all grew up together. And even though I wasn't engaged in it, you know, a heroin addict can hear it in another heroin addict's voice. You can hear the drug. Sure. You can hear the talking to them.
You got to change your behaviors. That's the big part of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't do any of that. So just to say, I was clean 46 days until I got my first paycheck, and I was off again.
Right. So then back. It looks like in 2016, that's when you kind of said, "Okay, fuck it, enough's enough."
It all changed. I was led to the doors by the direct consequences of my actions, to the doors of a homeless shelter with a 12-step program in it called a healing place. and that place saved my life.
Amen. That's good. God,
It saved my life.
yeah. And then you said you were homeless. Well, you said you had a house, you had kids, you had this. You had a wife. Did the wife kick you out? What happened? I mean, you have a home.
I still had those things, but because of, once again, in direct consequence of my actions, I was politely asked to leave.
Was it politely? Really?
No, it wasn't that polite.
Because I don't ever remember anything ever politely in my addiction. So
it sounds good. No,
it did sound good.
It was all that. It was horrible. I was just at a horrible place, man. And that was the one place they offered walk in. You could just walk in.
Wow.
To this place. And they have a place called, well, when you walk in, when you come in, they have a detox area. That's actually where I got the H.O.P.E from. There was a mural on the back wall, and this was painted on the back wall. And one of my brothers from there, his name was Will. Will passed away clean a year and a half ago, and he explained it to me what it meant. And it's a long-term treatment facility. It's 8 months to a year,
Wow.
year and a half. And it's very near and dear to my heart. Like, I still continue to go down there. I pick guys up and I give them rides. I go down there and facilitate classes when I'm available. It saved my life. So it introduced me to the steps. It introduced me. My foundation is AA. It's an AA based 12-step. And I branched out into NA, but I go anywhere where the message of hope and the promise of freedom is.
Good. And it says that you're a peer recovery specialist. Is that something that you do with was it called Healing Center?
The Healing Place.
Healing Place.
No, that's just something that was placed in my path on this journey so far.
Okay.
I'd like to do something with it at some point.
Okay. Good.
No, it's the Healing Place is just something that I do for me. I've learned that the best way for me to help someone is to help myself.
Right.
There's another book that I read that says my cup runneth over. So that means I got to fill my cup before it can run over. If I fill my cup, it's for me. The overflow is for everyone else. So as long as I keep my cup full, it's overflow for everybody.
Well, the 12 steps of recovery, the 12th step, it talks about, giving back. And if we don't give back this gift that we've been given, we may not be holding on to it ourselves. And,
keep what we have by giving it away.
Right. Yeah. And I love the fact that you went to a lot of AA meetings. You didn't even mention alcohol. And but I'm sure you don't drink. I'm sure you're stone cold sober, right?
Actually, I started off drinking. That's
where it began, right?
I started off drinking I had a friend that passed away many years ago, one of my best friends. His dad used to keep a little pint bottle of gin under his armrest.
Right.
And we were probably 10, 11 years old, and we used to go up there and sit in the car waiting for the school bus in the morning because he would start the car for us to stay warm. And we went to the armrest one day and found this little bottle, and it was a wrap. It was a wrap. So I started off drinking before I did it.
Same here, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I like also that what you said here, my life isn't perfect, but now I have the tools I need to be able to handle it. And that is so true. I mean, we can, our lives are not perfect. Matter of fact, I had a lot more stuff going on in recovery than I did when I was using, but we get the tools to kind of handle it. And you want to explain maybe what the tools are to everybody listening out there? What are your tools that somebody might be able to?
My tools are learning who I am. First of all, I know that my feelings may be a fact, but it's not every fact is a feeling. I may have said that wrong because I'm a little nervous.
No, that's right. You got it right.
Yeah, you're doing good.
Whatever. But either way, I know today that my thoughts are always subject to revision. I don't have to fly off when I get emotional. I understand that I have a lot of character defects and shortcomings, and the majority of the things that I feel, just because I feel that way, doesn't mean that they're true.
Right.
So if I go to work and I feel that somebody was disrespectful to me, or they may have been in a bad mood themselves, I don't have to fly off and put my hands on you because you looked at me funny.
Yeah,
right.
Because that's their stuff, not ours, and we take responsibility for our stuff. leave them take responsibility for their stuff. And I learned that in recovery too, because I would love to jump and fly off the handle and yell and scream. But it was their stuff and it wasn't mine. And that's really important too in recovery. It kind of keeps us grounded also. So
I also have the most awesome network on the planet. There is nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, that I can experience in life that I don't have someone that I can call and give me some guidance.
Yeah.
That's the main thing.
Yeah.
I have a sponsor that works with me, that has a sponsor. I go through steps. I work my steps. I have a service position. I have the greatest home group on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
This is just how I feel, and I would tell anyone, if you're in recovery and you follow the same principles that I follow, if you don't feel the same way, then that's something you need to look at.
Mm-hmm.
These things, like this life that I've been afforded today, with the people that I interact with, the things that I learned about myself, just the path that I've been placed on. People pay thousands of dollars for this, and I receive it for free.
Yep.
Because I'm willing to put the work in to get it.
Yeah.
If anyone is in pain, if you're hurting, I understand that pain, but it's so much better, and there's so many things that are able to be received just by taking a simple suggestion.
And that pain is not necessary either. I mean, it's definitely, you go through it, but it's not necessary how we hang on to it and keep it infesting in ourselves. It's not necessary. And it's through people like you that we were able to talk to, and through people like our sponsors, and the steps to get rid of all that pain.
They work greatly.
Yeah.
I've learned that the majority of the pain that I've carried wasn't even about me. Like the part that I played in it was because I held on to it.
Right.
But some of the things that I carried that I thought were because of me or were mine, they weren't. They had nothing directly to do with me. Like one of my biggest things is my fear of abandonment. My mother and father split up when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I was little, and I remember that day when we left. My father was a giant in my eyes. He still is.
Mm-hmm.
My father's a Marine, decorated Marine, Purple Heart, and he was a giant. And I remember being 4 or 5 years old, getting put in the back of a gremlin and watching the giant go from this and shrink down to nothing the further we got away.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that he left me.
Mm-hmm.
And I carried that for a very, very, very long time. And I recently, and this is just recently, I came to realize he didn't leave me. He's still in my life,
Mm-hmm.
but that's the way that it was perceived to me, and that's what I carried.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't have to.
Yeah, and we learned about all that in the rooms and everything. We got only a couple minutes here, Corey, but real quick, just if somebody's out there suffering in pain, what do you recommend for them to do? If somebody came to you and said, Corey, I heard you, how do I do this? What's my next step here?
My thing with them would be, and I reach for help, find help. If you're talking to me, then give me a moment. Let me get on the phone. I can find you some help. There are people available to help any situation that a person struggling or suffering with is dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many avenues and outlets, and there's so many things that we can do to make our lives better or to make a change. The first thing that I would suggest the person do is make a decision to make a change in your life. Like if you're not willing to make a change, nothing is going to happen. If you're going to keep suffering at the same thing, in life, pain is promised, but suffering is optional.
Yeah,
we don't have to suffer.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great point, and
Absolutely.
that's how it all begins. You got to be ready, and and you may not even know you're ready, but if you're asking somebody for help, that's huge.
Yeah.
And if that person can't help you, ask another person, because, like you said, someone asked you, if you didn't have the answer, you'd get on that phone, you'd find them some help.
Yeah. Corey, is there any way that we can they can get a hold of you if they want to reach out to you? Is there a Facebook or an email or anything along those lines?
My email address is CoreyC325E30@gmail.com. You can reach me there, or you can look me up on Corey Clarke Facebook.
Okay, and we'll put all that in the notes too. So, because Corey, you have an excellent story, and unfortunately, we don't have that much time. I could go 3 shows and listen to you. This was amazing. It really was.
Great
and
job,
let's have you back on again, and maybe continue this wonderful journey you're on. I'm sure everybody wants to hear the rest of it. So,
Corey Clarke, you are the man. Thanks for your time. Godspeed, man.
Stay sober, everybody.
Absolutely.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Café, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.